Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here on DarkSec. I'm Dark, and today we're going to be taking a look at the room Introductory Researching on TryHackMe. For those of you who've been in the penetration testing field or even have done a little bit of light IT work, you know that knowing how to research and knowing how to do it efficiently is one of the most important skills to have, and this room covers exactly that. It's incredibly important. And knowing how to ask a question, how to research it, is going to be critical if you want to be successful. So we'll start right now with Task 1, Introduction. So without a doubt, the ability to research effectively is the most important quality for a hacker to have. By its very nature, hacking requires a vast knowledge base, because how are you supposed to break into something if you don't know how it works? The answer is no one knows everything, and anyone who's done any programming as well will know that programming is a lot of times considered professional Googling. It's, do you know how to look up what you need? Same thing for hacking. Everyone, professional or amateur, experienced or totally new to the subject, will encounter problems which they don't automatically know how to solve. This is where research comes in, as in the real world, you can't ever expect to simply be handed the answers to your questions. As your experience level increases, you will find the things that you're researching scale in their difficulty accordingly. However, in the field of information security, there will never come a point where you don't need to look things up. This is very true in my professional work. A lot of my time is spent doing R&D. A lot of it is knowing how to Google and trying to learn how to use things and learn how to use different commands and ways that they can be abused, looking up other research that different security researchers have done, things like that. This room will serve as a brief overview of some of the most important resources available to you and will hopefully aid you in the process of building a research methodology that works for you. We will be looking at the following topics: an example of a research question, vulnerability searching tools, Linux manual pages, and that'll be it. So let's go ahead and begin. We'll go ahead and mark that as completed, and we'll go ahead and jump into Task 2, an example research question. We'll begin by looking at a typical research question, the kind that you're likely to find when working through a CTF on TryHackMe. Let's say you've downloaded a JPEG image from a remote server. You suspect that there's something hidden inside of it, but how do you get it out? How about we start by searching for hiding things inside images in Google? And here we can see that Myrland has actually done this Google search for us already. So we can see that right away we see an article from Nullbyte, which is a fantastic resource for finding different hacking articles. They're a pretty good site for that. So notice that the second link down gives us the title of a technique, steganography. Being able to pick up those terms like that, that's incredibly important. You can then click that link and read the document, which will teach you how files are hidden inside images. Okay, so we know how it's done. Let's try searching for a way to extract files using steganography. And again, Myrland has this search done for us. Already, virtually every link is pointing to something useful. 0xRick, this is a great website for write-ups. He's done a ton of them. You can see that it's linking to various tools, StegExtract, different CTF resources. This is pretty common. If you're doing a CTF challenge, or a CTF competition rather, you're probably going to have to do a little bit of Stego, or at least know how to do it. The first link contains a collection of useful tools. The second is more instructions on how to perform steganography in the first place. Realistically, any of these links could prove useful. Well, let's take a look at that first one. So we can go ahead and open that in a new tab. And again, great resource. You can see that 0xRick has a bunch of different things. So Wizard Labs, Hack the Box, basic binary exploitation. This is fantastic. This is actually a resource. As I was preparing for my OSCP, I went through and took a look through a number of his write-ups, and it gets back to the idea of maybe you don't know how to do something. Look at a write-up and figure it out. It's, you got to teach yourself a little bit there. And then right away we can see down further on the page, we have a tool called StegHide. And if you've done, again, any CTF competitions, this tool is going to ring a bell. The very first tool there looks useful. It can be used to extract embedded data from JPEG files. Exactly what we want to do. This page also tells you that StegHide can be installed using something called apt. Let's search that up next. So searching for apt install. Apt is a command. This is something that is in the Debian distribution of Linux. Kali is a distribution or a flavor of Debian. So is Ubuntu. It is your package installer tool. Very easy to use, and here we can see so great. So apt is a package manager that lets us install tools on Linux distributions like Ubuntu or Kali. How can we install packages using apt? Let's go ahead and search it. So scrolling down just a little bit, we can see we have this command immediately highlighted, which is sudo apt get install and then your package name. This is a command that, as you get used to Linux, you're going to use this a lot, especially if you want to install a tool in an easy way or some sort of package. Apt is going to be your best friend. Similar versions or similar tools are Pacman, dpackage installer, various other things like that. So each different version of Linux is really going to have its own. Perfect. Right at the top of the page, we're given instructions. We know that our package is called steghide, so we can go ahead and install that, which I will open up a terminal here. I am not connected to the TryHackMe VPN right now, but I don't know if we actually need it for this room. We can do sudo apt get install steghide. And since I'm running Kali, this should already be installed, but we'll check. And there we go. Sure enough, it's already there and ready to go. So now let's switch back to that collection of steganography tools we were looking at before. Did you notice that were instructions on how to use steghide right there? And sure enough, right below we can see we have two commands: steghide info file, which is going to display information about a file with whether or not it has embedded data in it. And then we have the extract command. So if there is embedded data, this is the command that we would actually use to extract it. Now, one thing to know, this data can sometimes have passwords in it, but this is something you'll explore a little bit, or this data can rather require a password to extract it, and that's something you will explore a little bit more as you start playing with steganography, and there's a couple excellent rooms on TryHackMe. There we go. That's how we can extract an image from a file. Our research has paid off, and we can now go and complete the task. Notice the methodology here. We started with nothing, but gradually built up a picture of what we needed to do. We had a question: how can I extract data from this image? We searched for an answer to that question, then continued to query each of the answers we were given until we had a full understanding of the topic. This is a really good way to conduct research. Start with a question, get initial understanding of the topic, and then look into more advanced aspects as needed. And again, this comes into the idea of, can you pick up those core terms? So if you see something that maybe is your blanket term for a lot of things, so in this case, steganography, that's usually going to be what you want to research. Now it's your turn. See if you can answer the following questions using your research skills. The first 3 questions have appropriate search queries in the hints. In the Burp Suite program that ships with Kali Linux, what mode would you use to manually send a request, often repeating a captured request numerous times? Now, I do know the answer to this one. We're going to go ahead and Google it just so that we can see how we would do that research topic. So we'll do Burp Suite repeat request. And we can see how to repeat a request in a loop. That doesn't look like it's too useful. And we can see our second link here is using Burp Repeater. Burp Repeater is a simple tool for manually manipulating and reissuing individual HTTP and WebSocket messages and analyzing the application's responses. You can use Repeater for all kinds of purposes, such as changing parameter values and so on and so forth. This is going to be what we're looking for, though, and you can see just by searching, picking out a couple words in that, the actual question, we can find the correct answer. What hash format are modern Windows and login passwords stored in? And we can actually take this and we'll try searching for that directly. So fun fact, the URL bar in most modern web browsers is just a search bar as well. And sure enough, by searching just for that term, we can see that we have our answer here. The user passwords are stored in a hashed format in a registry hive, either as an LM, this is a landman hash, or an NTLM hash. And this NTLM is 4 characters, so this is likely what we're looking for. There we go. What are automated tasks called in Linux? So we can go back over here. Linux automated tasks. And it looks like we have couple interesting links here. One is going to be on crontab. And sure enough, we can see right here, such tasks in Linux are referred to as cron jobs, which is actually going to fit our answer. And that's going to be how you would automate things in Linux. Very nice, especially if you want to do simple things like, suppose you want to run a Minecraft server. Cron jobs are your best friend for running backups if you don't have a backup plugin. And you can do a lot of other fun things like this. Automated backups are a big one. Going through and doing cleanup on your server can be another big one. Saving your work, other things like that. It's a fantastic way that you can take advantage of how flexible of an operating system Linux is. What number base could you use as a shorthand for base 2 or binary? So there's a couple different answers here. In this case, we're actually going to look at the hint to make sure. And this is going to tell us what is going to be an incorrect answer. We'll search for this. Let's see if not what I wanted. Shorthand for base 2. We'll see which one Mirland actually wants here. So we can see that Octal is one example, and this is base 8. Very, very cool. As you start getting into computer science and programming concepts a little bit more, you'll start exploring this. But there is an even shorter hand that is called hex. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Are we going to actually refer to it properly here? Yeah, hexadecimal, so base 16. And that should be our answer. So that is a base 16 number format. Very, very common to see. You're going to see it a ton in programs and in different ways to hash things and other things like that. If a password starts with $6, what format is it? We can actually take this and we'll search for that. Sure enough, it looks like we might have an answer here. It is a type 6 password hash. It might be a SHA-256. Let's see which we want. Cry. So that is going to be in our password hash itself. And we can search around for this just a little bit. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Let's see if we have something here. Unix variant. So it looks like this is the exact article that we were supposed to find. It looks like it's going to be, sure enough, it's actually referring to this room. It is going to be the SHA-512 crypt answer. And they even referenced that, hey, TryHackMe is going to link you here. So SHA-512 crypt. Let's try that. And there we go. Perfect. That is going to be task 2 done. Let's go ahead and move into task 3, which is going to be vulnerability searching. So, vulnerability searching. Often in hacking, you'll come across software that might be open to exploitation. For example, content management systems such as WordPress, Fuel CMS, Ghost, etc. are frequently used to make setting up a website easier, and many of these are vulnerable to various attacks. So where would we look if we wanted to exploit specific software? And the video for this is not actually out quite yet. It'll be out pretty soon. I have another video that is going up on the Mr. Robot CTF, very, very popular room on TryHackMe, that I actually talk about why these CMS systems end up being so vulnerable. So definitely check that out if that's something that interests you. The answer to that question lies in websites such as ExploitDB, NVD, so this is the National Vulnerability Database, CVE MITRE, which is going to be the MITRE database for different exploitations, and then this first one that's mentioned is just a database of different exploits and exploit code. NVD keeps track of CVEs, which is common vulnerabilities and exposures. This is important to know. Whether or not there is a specific exploit publicly available, so it's a really good place to look if you're researching vulnerabilities in a specific piece of software. CVEs take the format of CVE dash and then the year and then dash ID number. This is going to be really useful, and this is a good format to just be familiar with because it can help you for searching for different things that may have come out. ExploitDB tends to be very useful for hackers. It's actually designed by hackers, made for hackers. Very cool. Offensive Security maintains it. Great folks over there, and they do a lot of really good work with that site. Tends to be very useful for hackers, as it often actually contains exploits that can be downloaded and used straight out of the box. It tends to be one of the first stops when you encounter software in a CTF or pen test. Typically, especially if you're going to be doing something like an offset course, this is going to be your best friend. If you're inclined towards the CLI or the command line interface on Linux, Kali comes pre-installed with a tool called Searchsploit. That is an offline copy of ExploitDB. It allows you to go through, and once you update it, it will actually just pull everything off of ExploitDB, all the POCs, and it saves it in a text format, making it very, very easy and very nice, especially if you can't connect to the internet during a pen test. So this is offline and works using a downloaded version of the database, meaning you already have all the exploits. Yep. Let's take an example. Say we're playing a CTF and we come across a website. This is actually from another room on TryHackMe. You may want to check out a room called Ignite, and you might be able to find something fun there, but I'll leave that up to you. So we can see that we found Fuel CMS and then a version here. Well, this is quite obviously Fuel CMS. Usually it won't be this obvious, but hey, we'll work with what we've got. We know the software, so let's search for it in ExploitDB, and we can actually pull up ExploitDB, and we'll do that right now. So let's search Fuel CMS and see what we get. Just thinking about it. Just thinking about it. There we go. So we have Fuel CMS, and it looks like we have one exploit here that leads to remote code execution. Let's go ahead and jump back over to the room, and we can take a look at what we're going to do with this. We know the software, so let's search for it in ExploitDB. And then we're also going to go ahead and hop over to Searchsploit, and I'll demo that right now just so you guys can see what that looks like. So Searchsploit Fuel CMS, and there we go. Same results because, again, this is just an offline copy of ExploitDB. Success. We've got an exploit that we can use against the website. Actually, using the exploit is out with the outside of the scope of this room, but you can see the process. And again, if you want to continue on with this, check out that other room, Ignite, and I'll put a link to that in the video description below. If you click on the title, you'll be given a bit more of an explanation about the exploit. So here we can see we have the actual CVE number on the room here, which is super handy. This is going to link to the National Vulnerability Database, NVD. This is a fantastic website, especially if you are a defensive operator. This is going to give you a lot of information, along with link to relevant other resources about this exploit. So, for example, if you were working at a company and you're running Fuel CMS that is this version, this is going to tell you what you need to do and how bad this is. Another similar resource, and I've got another walkthrough video up for it, is Attacker KB, so that's worth checking out as well here. But very, very nice. We can see that we have the base score here, the actual score for the exploit. This is going to be a critical because it results in you just win with this exploit. It's very nice, very fun. Switching back over, so we can see if you click on that, it's going to give more of an explanation. And again, pay attention to this format with the CVE numbers. You're going to need them for the question. So what is the CVE for the 2020 cross-site scripting vulnerability found in WP Forms? Let's take that, and we're just going to search exactly for that. Let's see. This is likely what we're looking for. Let's try this. Maybe. There we go. Perfect. So nice and easy. You can see that sometimes just taking that phrase makes it very easy and almost trivial to find these things. There was a local privilege escalation vulnerability found in the Debian version of Apache Tomcat back in 2016. What is the CVE for this vulnerability? Let's take this local privilege escalation vulnerability in the Debian version of Tomcat. Let's search for that, and we can see that we have a 2016 CVE, which gets us local privilege escalation. Let's go ahead and click into this link, and we can close a couple of these other tabs. We'll grab this, and let's try that. And there we go. What is the very first CVE found in VLC Media Player? We can go ahead and go back to ExploitDB, and let's see if we can find it just by searching for VLC. And we'll expand our pages here. And we'll go to the end just to see if we can find something very old. Looks like we have a CV here, which is going to be Nothing too interesting, but it is a very old CVE. Let's try this one and see if this is what Mirrorlin wants. There we go. If I wanted to exploit a 2020 buffer overflow in a pseudo program, what CVE would I use? So let's take a look. So it looks like we immediately found our exploit here, which is going to be the PW feedback buffer overflow. And if we click into this, this might not be correct because it's 2019. Let's take a look at a couple other ones. Date 2020. Okay, let's see if this is the right one. I kind of doubt it, but we'll find out. Oh, there we go. Okay, so sure enough, you can see that sometimes the CVE might be off, and we're going to go ahead and refresh the page, as it might have fixed it with regex. There's single character substitution regex forgiveness on the page, and sure enough, no, that is the correct exploit. And we'll close some tabs, and there we go. We'll jump into task 4, which is going to be manual pages. If you haven't already worked with Linux, I highly recommend taking a look at the Learn Linux room, also another very popular room on TryHackMe. Linux, usually Kali Linux, is without a doubt the most ubiquitous operating system used in hacking, so it pays to be familiar with it. One of the most useful features of Linux is the inbuilt man command, which gives you access to the manual pages for most tools directly inside your terminal. Occasionally, you'll find a tool that doesn't have a manual entry. However, this is pretty rare. Generally speaking, when you don't know how to use a tool, man should be your first port of call. So there's also a shortened version of this called TLDR. Too lazy didn't read. And you can install that. It'll give you a shortened version of the man page. I recommend checking it out if you want something fun to play with. It is a fantastic tool. I had a system administrator that I worked with for a while show that to me, and it's fantastic. Let's give it a shot. Say we want to connect to a remote computer using SSH, but we don't know the syntax. We can try man SSH to get the manual page for SSH, and we'll go ahead and check that out right now. We'll do man SSH, and there we go. So this is the manual pages, and we can see right away we've got a couple options at the bottom. We have H for help or Q for quit. We can also scroll in the terminal to see what we've got. You can press space to go by pages, but we can see that this lays out the entire program, and it's pretty verbose. It gives us pretty much everything that we could ever hope for with working with SSH, and it's a fantastic resource. Let's jump back to the room. So awesome. We can see in the description that the syntax for using SSH is user and then @ and then the host. This can be a host name or an IP address. We can also use the main pages to look for special switches in programs that make the program do other things. An example of this would be that from our very first example, SegHide can be used to both extract and embed files inside an image based on the switches that you give it. For example, if you wanted to display the version number for SSH, you would scroll down in the man page until you found the appropriate switch, which in this case, Mirrorlin has already got a screenshot of it for us, which is going to be TAC. And that looks like capital V. Let's go ahead and try that out. SSH-V. And there we go. We can see that we have the version displayed. Another way to find that switch would have been to search the man page for the correct switch using grep. So we can man SSH, grep, and then E version number. We can try that right now. Man SSH, we'll pipe that into grep and E version number. And there we go. Pulls that out. So grep is just a search command. We can pipe it. So this takes the output of what comes from running this man SSH command, and it throws it into something else so we can operate on it. This is something that you'll also learn, I believe, in the Learn Linux room, so check that out if you haven't already. Now it's your turn. Answer the following questions using the man command. SCP is a tool used to copy files from one computer to another. What switch would you use to copy an entire directory? And I'm guessing this is probably TAC D. We'll do man SCP, though. And let's see what we've got. Maybe. SSH config, identity, destination. Probably looking at it, but looking over it. Port, quiet mode, recursive. There we go. So this is what we want. Recursive mode is the other option that we'd be looking for. This will take the entire directory. So it's going to be dash lowercase r. fdisk is a command used to view and alter the partitioning scheme used on your hard drive. What switch would you use to list the current partitions? We'll do man fdisk, and then we can we'll try grepping for this. Grep e current. Nope, that didn't give us really anything useful. We'll just do man fdisk and we'll see what we can find. Let's see if my search commands. Nope. Give it just a moment. I was looking at it the entire time, so it's going to be this TACL, which is list the partition table for the specified devices in the exit. This is going to show your current partitions on your device. So we can go back here, and then the answer is going to be TACL. Nano is an easy-to-use text editor for Linux. There are arguably better editors. This is also incorrect. Nano is the best. However, Nano is the great one to start with. There's a constant fight on which one's the best text editor. Pick whichever one you want to use the most, but I'm firmly in Nano camp at the time of recording. Let that be said. What switch would you use to make a backup without opening a file with Nano? So we can go ahead and go back. We'll close this and we'll man Nano. And we're looking for a backup option. Maybe. When saving a file, back up the previous version of it using the current file name suffixed with the tilde. Let's try that. And there we go. Netcat is a basic command tool used to manually send and receive network requests. What command would you use to start a Netcat or start Netcat in listen mode using port 12345? So we can close this and we'll do man and then Netcat. So Netcat, this one I do know off the top of my head. We're going to do two switches. So this first one is going to be TACL, lowercase l there specifically for listen mode. And then we need our port switch, which is going to be dash lowercase p, or the local port number that we're going to listen on. So we can go back, we'll do Netcat, listen dash p 12345. Let's give that a try. Perfect. And that is going to do it for task 4. Let's jump into task 5, final thoughts. You may have been told in school that there are good sources and bad sources of information. That may be true when it comes to essays and referencing information. However, it's my pleasure to state that it does not apply here. Any information can be potentially useful, so feel free to use blogs, Wikipedia, or anything else that contains what your information you're looking for. Blogs especially can often be very valuable for learning when it comes to information security, as many security researchers keep a blog, and especially as you advance in your career, this is something that I do recommend considering. Having completed this room, you hopefully now have established the basis of a methodology to tackle research questions that you can come across by yourself. The vast majority of rooms on TryHackMe can be solved purely using knowledge found on Google, so please take that opportunity to improve your skills by Googling any problems you come across. As a follow-up to this room, I highly recommend CMatic's Google Dorking Room. This is a very cool room as well to learn some advanced Google tricks. And we'll go ahead and mark that as complete. And there we go. That is going to do it for that room today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to join the official TryHackMe Discord or the DarkSec Discord. Both are linked in the video description below. Otherwise, follow me on YouTube for more walkthroughs like this. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Happy hacking.